Now, the Prime Minister, I mean, it is very difficult for this bloke to be achieving at the level that he currently is. I mean, he is just next level. Of course, apart from having huge election wins and a great Labor hero, a man who obviously will eclipse Whitlam and Hawke and Keating and all of them, but we know how great he is. Well, we know that, of course, he is very much in the throes of appreciation from China. We know today that Hamas has come out in support of the way that he wants to deal with the world. Of course, we also know that the true devil that he wants to avoid is in the White House right now because no meeting. In fact, he's run away from the meetings, that being the president going, I don't need to meet that guy. Any attempts, in fact, even the Quad meeting, which was supposed to be happening, no, that's all gone. So it's tumbleweeds. So the good thing is China loves us. Hamas gives us the big tick, but let's stay away from Orange Man bad, right? That's the level of performance that this bloke is running on and is beloved by his nation for it. Well, as you have seen at much discussion today, the unions are floating the idea of a 4-day work week. Now, I'm going to say most Australians, when presented with this idea, are probably going to like it. Why? Because if it means 4 days and 3 and they don't run a business, but if you are running a business, and this is a show that understands the difficulties and the strains and the worry of small business, then these ideas just make your head explode. The unions, however, say that this is the future, so I suppose why not? We've got $1 trillion in debt. We'll eventually sort of follow the Greece model when it comes to debt. So why not follow the old Greek model of a little sleep in the middle of the day or maybe just a 4-day work week?
It's good because workers' performance improve. They're healthier. They're more likely to stay in the job. They're less likely to get burnt out. And from companies' perspective, they're more productive in the time that they're there. So this is not something that's a cost. This is actually something that's about more fairly sharing in the benefits of productivity, making sure it just doesn't go to big business profits, but that workers see a fair share too.
Profits. Of course, the problem is that the Labor Party has created a system where you have to have a huge percentage of your lifetime income in superannuation, which, of course, largely, for most of your working life, is invested in the share market, which, of course, is affected by the profits of companies. But whatever. The whole point is you're only supposed to work for the government, right? But bugger how it actually works. It's a great idea. You stand in front of it. You're anti-work. You know the game. And I've had 4-day weeks. They're great. All right. But I wouldn't want to be running a small business. But I cannot believe it is now o'clock at night that anyone is bothering to point out what the other shoe to drop is with the ideas in and around a 4-day week. If we have a 4-day work week, we would, of course, have a 3-day weekend. And what happens on the weekend? Penalty rates. So the union movement is single-handedly trying to shorten the amount of working hours that people have to do, but you keep the same money. Of course, then, whatever you do, if you have a business that is open 7 days, well, you're going to need whoever works on the weekend and maybe work an extra day, and the penalty rates, they all rack up. That is the actual idea that is going to be pushed here. That is the actual idea that the ACTU has put on the table. But again, it's now o'clock at night, and all the people who've had the conversations, the press conference, all the rest of it, now o'clock at night is the first time somebody's actually talking about what they're really trying to do. But we'll see what happens next week. But back to the greatest Prime Minister of all time. Now, he has said, not to the 4-day work week, right? But that said, the unions are the ones in charge of the Labor Party. They are the bother boys and girls when it comes to elections. They're the biggest donors. They're 50% of the say. They're the ones turning around telling the Labor Party what they have to do. In exchange, every single MP in the Labor Party is a member of a union. Oh, but no, it's a completely terrible idea. Nothing we're going to see here. Just like the negative gearing stuff. We all know where this is going to go. It might seem like the craziest of ideas in 2025, but by 2030 it'll be, why didn't we do this earlier? So the Prime Minister, to his credit, at least today, said, man, not quite. But he then decided to heap a little bit of praise on his favourite subject, himself. Because, you see, he is not he's not like us. We are lucky to be in his presence. Because while the 40-hour work week or the 5-day work week, or God forbid you push a little bit into the sixth day of work, you are nothing compared to the greatest and hardest worker in Australia. Just ask him.
This week's roundtable, the ACT is pushing for a 4-day work week. Is that an idea you support?
I wouldn't mind a 6-day and 23-hour work week myself, rather than 24/7.
Now, okay, I'm not going to pretend that it probably feels like 24/7 when you're the Prime Minister, but he's got fairly large chunks of time that are downtime, and we pay whether he's on the phone or whether he's on the cans, right? Like, remember when, of course, all of those Teal MPs, they were just coming over for a couple of drinks, bit of a chat at the lodge, that's 24/7 work. What about when he's playing cricket at Kirribilli? That's 24/7 work. What about when he gets flown around on the jet that he apparently affectionately names after his dog? 24 hours a day. And how was he 24/7ing today? Well, he was in Brisbane. And what's happening in Brisbane right now? The wonderful Ekka, the annual show where the country comes to the city. This was 24/7 work. And again, if you thought you worked hard today, get over yourself, because this bloke works harder than all of us. Here's the tape to prove it.
You can test a bit there. Yeah, Harvey, mate. Yeah, Harvey, mate. Part of the world.
Perfect. And as long as you just keep moving down.
You've done this before, boy.
And down. There you go.
There you go. Very good.
Whew, who could keep up this schedule? And how did the media report on that? Look, every politician does it. It's just turning around and wrapping yourself for, 24/7. I've been doing this for 3 and a bit years. That's why everyone loves me. Seriously. He's got more tickets on himself than Taylor Swift can sell in a year. Oh, yeah, he went to that as well. This was one of the reporting from one of the major news websites, which, among other things, Albo delights the crowd. Fair dinkum. Again, if it was another politician saying, I'm 24/7, they'd be right up them, like a rat up a drain pipe. Oh, but this is the special, amazing, wonderful Albanese. Long may he reign, and may he work harder than the rest of us each and every day. Pull the other one, it plays jingle bells, mate. Now, as you know, Australia has a horrible problem with racism, and let's be honest, you're probably the problem. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. I mean, remember the human rights ads that tell us that racism is everywhere, including taxi ranks.
Remain long.
Where to?
He's first.
Oh, it's okay. I'll take you.
No, it's not okay. He was next.
And then there's the racism when people go to a lift.
Allow me.
Thank you.
Spooky music. This is the fantasy of what they think is happening all day, every day, as opposed to normal Australians who just get along with each other. Oh, g'day, what's your name? Not where are you from and where may your parents be from and all the rest of that garbage. But there is an entire industry that is there to tell us day after day after day, report after report after report about how damn racist we are. Last week I told you about the Race Discrimination Commissioner and how often he used the R word in a speech in the home game that is the National Press Club. Racist, 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 racist. In a room full of white people who think we're racist.
Racism. 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 Racism.
It is everywhere. Like even the seat you're sitting in right now, underneath that seat, it might be lurking. It is everywhere, you know. Well, another example has apparently been brought forward to us where apparently the new battlefront of racism is maternity wards. Yeah, seriously. Apparently there's been a shocking surge in maternity ward racism according to new data. The data comes from the Maternity Consumer Network. Now, again, I don't know what they do 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. They certainly don't work as hard as the Prime Minister. But apparently their founder has said, as we see an increase in women from many different cultures and religions, it's important to care providers to cater to this. Direct quote. We have reports that there is a joke that persists in Queensland that postnatal Indian women are lazy and expect their family to look after their babies. What? We have heard about staff laughing and teasing the patients about difficult to pronounce names and refuse to call in interpreters. Racism, racism, racism. It's everywhere, including apparently in the maternity ward. Now, of course, I've had the experience, not doing the hard work, but being there 3 times. And the people who work in and around it are fantastic. But of course, I would have a great experience, wouldn't I? And wouldn't our family have a great experience? Because racism, it's just thankfully, we've got a 24/7 Prime Minister to slay it like the dragon it is. Now to something that we are very much focused on. For 125 years, the Salvation Army has had a connection to the men and women who have defended this country in virtually all theatres of war. It's called the Sallyman Project. Now, put simply, the person from the Salvos, the Sally, turns up and provides very small creature comforts, or more importantly, a little bit of what they used to call pastoral care. But often can be somebody who is, yes, dressed in the fatigues, but is not technically part of the army, but is there to offer emotional support. And yes, sometimes, when possible, here's a cup of tea. Can I do you a favour? All right? ADF personnel love this service. I know because, firstly, the emails, thank you for all the great emails, for many, many years, over that 125, but the people serving right now, they love this service.
Pretty much every time you hear on the radio that the Sallyman's coming, everyone pretty much stops work and gets ready to chill out, have 5-10 minutes to relax. It's definitely the break you didn't know you needed. Any soldier, any person from any rank can go up to and just have a chat to, or if they're having issues, just need to get something off their chest, can go and speak to them and just talk things through. Coming out here, providing morale for the troops, it's just so important because in an environment like this, when you're away from family, you're away from all the support networks, it's awesome to have someone who, you can offload and talk about, whatever it may be.
Despite the fact that the people in the ADF like it, despite the fact that the people who do the work are some of the best amongst us, despite the fact that there is a lineage, because God forbid our history matters, it's everyone else's that must be celebrated. No, let's actually keep the unbroken chain of 125 years. They have now hit a brick wall. $1.5 million is what the Department of Defence previously has helped with the Salvos to be able to provide this service. But now they have decided to withdraw the $1.5 million. The Defence Minister, while not personally responsible apparently for the decision, the Department of Defence is there. Well, he's out of step with, among others, what the RSL believes. And the RSL is disappointed about what has happened here, no question. But the Department of Defence, and through the Defence Minister, well, we heard a little bit from them. In fact, we have been in touch with the Minister's office, and we got back not just something on his behalf, the Deputy Prime Minister, but also the Department of Defence. Now, let's all read this together, because all of this is thank you very much for your correspondence, as opposed to, yep, you're right, $1.5 million, let's go have a double check. The Salvation Army Red Shield Defence Services has a long and proud association with Defence, supporting the well-being and morale of personnel for more than 126 years. Yes, we know. That's why we're annoyed that you've decided to cut the funding. This is as close as they get to recognising the decision they have made that could end that 126 years. In recent years, Defence has provided additional financial support to ensure the continuation of services. And then there is just a lot of detail missing, and we jump straight to Defence continues to work closely with the Red Shield Defence Services as part of this valued relationship, including through in-kind support. Well, they don't need in-kind support. They need the Australian taxpayer to give them $1.5 million for a small little convenience that is one people have come to remember from their service or look forward to if they are serving their country right now. We were also directed to a series of helplines that are all very important, but it's not what I'm talking about. Now, if you are somebody who is directly involved in the Defence Force or a family member, please write these numbers down. The Defence All Hours Support Hotline, it's there. The Defence Member and Family Helpline, it's there. If you are out of hours or away from a base, the numbers are there. If you are a veteran or the families of veterans, there's a great organisation called Open Arms. That's their number. Great. I am glad all of those services are there, and I hope they all continue to be fully funded. But I'm not talking about a helpline. I'm talking about a person who is there on the front lines, who is not part of military command, but is there to bring just a taste of home, let alone to the people who are training. The videos we showed you before are not of people from a long time ago. They're people in the service now saying that the Salomon program is a good idea. But for some reason, smarter brains than you and I hope not harder hearts, and I hope not let's distance ourselves from a traditionally Christian organisation, have decided, nah, line in the sand, 1.5 million, not going to happen. Now, I increasingly get angry about this because I know what I think is going to start to happen here, which is that there is a good chance that these people are going to be punished because it is me who is talking about it. And I get it, Labor Party owes me no favours and I am no favour of the Labor Party, but for goodness sake, can we put all that garbage aside and just talk mate to mate, human to human here? This is a good service. You're telling us that you're really proud of 126 years. Well, let's make it 127, 157. The Salvos, in their comments to us, and they're very thankful for what we're being talked about, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate their work. We've commenced work on approaching philanthropic foundations, defence industry major donors, corporations and interested organisations so we can continue to provide the service for the ADF. So now we're off into donation land. Now, if there is anyone watching us from very significant organisations that may well have a big chunk of $1.5 million, send me an email, paul@skynews.com.au. If you got my number, text, and I'll put you in touch with the Salvos to just let's get them through the next 12 months. But the reason why we don't want to be rattling the tin, because they rattle the tin for a whole bunch of other things, literally, is that this thing should just be ongoing, 1.5 million every year from the ADF. Our long history in serving the ADF means that we see this service as part of the Salvation Army's DNA in Australia. We'll do everything to raise the funds that we can to support the wellbeing of Australia's incredible serving men and women. That's from Brett Gallagher, who's the Salvo's Red Shield Defence Services. Like, I know there's a lot of issues in the world and there's a lot of good causes and there's a lot of people that get very fired up and very emotionally connected to the thing of which they care about. But and I'm really trying to hold it back here, but what just gets me, that's the best way to put it, what gets me about this is, on Anzac Day, lest we forget. When the report comes out about veterans' suicide, it's very important, we must do something about this. When Remembrance Day, lest we forget. If it happens in a day when Parliament, have I got the badge on? Have I got the badge on? I care. The proof of how you care is the whole year round. The proof of if you get it is the whole year around. And again, to anyone who is more plugged in, to the people who can help here, please help. Not me. Salvos didn't ask me to do it. I saw it as a story earlier in the week. Again, I know there'll be people inside the Prime Minister's office because I took the piss at the start of the year and I've been banging around for years calling out his BS. No. As soon as he's involved, no, bugger him. They've picked a side. Salvos didn't pick a side, okay? The story is one that I would have thought by now, a few days in, we could sort of get a bit more attention on. And again, to every single mate in the media, please keep talking about it, find a way to do it. Some people have, and I really appreciate that. I certainly know on the radio, on 5AA in Adelaide, they talked about it. 4BC in Brisbane have talked about it. Good, let's keep it going, right? And I know you want to talk about it. Why? Because you've sent me these types of emails. Sally, who's in Oberon in central western New South Wales. My uncle was in a foxhole on the Kokoda track, very close to the enemy's position, when the soldier next to him commando crawled through the jungle for 3 consecutive mornings. When my uncle questioned, he was told that he was going for his morning tea. It was, of course, the Salvos who were 200 yards behind the line. 5 generations of my family continue to support these wonderful people. Thank you, Sandy, and thank you for your family service. Terry, I served in the Australian Army as an infantryman for 20 years between 1968 and 1988. Thank you for your service, Terry. The Sallyman went out of his way to be upbeat and would welcome all soldiers regardless of rank, with not only his goodies but also a smile. There were many times that he would travel long distances over rough terrain to make his welcome visit. There have also been times where he put himself in danger to get to the troops. He would undertake small but important favours for soldiers, such as taking mail to be posted back. Now, I know none of this is really important when you've got a whole bunch of staff, when you're just talking to the brass, it's you pen pushing in Canberra, it's you getting on and off the private jet, it's you meeting with the other world leaders. But imagine if you are in a position to have made a decision like this. If you are in a position to help them, help them. If you are part of the defence industry in this country, I know you can crack off 1.5 and you can sign it up for 5 years, 10 years. I'm sure it's probably even tax deductible for you. But how am I sitting here for the third night in a row pointing out the problem here? And it's not that I believe, because I mention it, from great thunder, the great power of Paul Murray gets anything done. No. It's that you hope somebody goes, really? Are we? What? Hey, can we? Instead, nothing. Just the silence of, well, here's a whole bunch of hotlines. Well, hotlines aren't the person who's bringing the cup of tea. As important as they are, and I repeat, I fully support all of that stuff. Raymond says, I was a national serviceman who served in Vietnam and remember too well the support provided by the Salvos at the Jungle Training Centre in Queensland. They made our toughest and most difficult days more bearable. Their kind, thoughtful words and a cup of tea and biscuits were often enough to keep us going. Struggling with the heavy backpacks and machine guns running up Heartbreak Hill were a blessing to have a salvo nearby for anyone who needed a cold drink to help them through. I mean, again, we've got so much money for so much stuff. And we're running $1 trillion debt, but I'll give you the tip. The $1.5 million from the federal government to the Salvos is not the difference between balancing our budget and not. It's the difference between decency and whatever the hell is going on right now. Again, if you are in any position to pick up a phone, can you do me a favour, or more importantly, do the Salvos a favour? Pick up the phone and help them out. There are lots of ways you can get in touch with an MP. I'll post all of those on our social feeds. It's a weird one, but we remain focused because the issue deserves it, and they well and truly deserve it. Now, we know they love to spend other people's money. Well, of course, not on terrible things like the Salvos, but they, of course, want to spend other people's money because, it works politically, especially if you are part of the modern centre-left, which is about building that triangle of dependence, where they'll keep voting for you because they either work for you, they've got the handout, or the biggest business, the biggest customer for the business is the government. Well, we can tick off the 50% here because John Keogh, writing in the Financial Review, I should have mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, it's a cracking article, more than 50% of voters now rely on the government for their main income. There we go. The triangle of dependence. Geez, I don't know anyone who voted for them. 50%. And public servants, and I know there's some good ones watching who get annoyed when I talk about it, but still we know billions and billions and all the rest of it, and God forbid any suggestion about cutting back on it, because we're supposedly a free country that's supposedly powered by private enterprise, but no, if you depend on the government, that's all that matters. And today, wages figures came out. The government's out there saying, look, everyone's getting a pay rise. Guess who's getting more of a pay rise? People who work for the government. Why? Because I can show you this. I can show you this graph. Also, speaking of other people's money, and I want to talk about this here too, the Future Fund. This is a cracking story, and by that I mean, really? Another example of other people's money. The Future Fund. Now, as I told you last night, the bosses of the Future Fund, which is the organisation that manages the superannuation of the public servants, have spent $180,000 on themselves, flights and accommodation in just 1 year. Documents released to the Australian show that the bosses of it, both former and current, together racked up a total of $29,000 on flights, $18,000 in accommodation, including a stay by Mr Combe at the luxury 5-star Refinery Hotel in Manhattan last financial year. Well, okay, it's a big swing and, they've got a lot of money. But what about other people's money here? Meanwhile, the CEO spent a total $97,000 on flights and accommodation. They are effectively fund managing for the public service. Well, the incredible detail here is that once all of this came up in the Senate, David Pocock and James Patterson have said, can we get a bit more information about the 300 people who work for the Future Fund and how much money they too are spending, perhaps at the front end of the plane? However, the Future Fund has refused to release travel costs for its other 300 plus members of staff, including the other 8 members of its executive team, because it said to process the request would unreasonably divert the resources of the agency from its other operations. They've got $300 billion that they have access to, that they are investing. They are pretending that they don't have enough money or time to go through the travel logs of 300 people. Now, I've already said pull the other one, it plays Jingle Bells, so you're going to have to pull the other one than that. It plays Jingle Bells too. Other people's money. They love to piddle it away, don't they? Oh, but $1.5 million for the salvos, not acceptable, not okay.